And as we are about to share the word, the worship continues. To worship our Father is to express our love to Him and to celebrate His goodness, His kindness, as Cian has prayed about His goodness. He used the Afrikaans woord goedheid, which is His kindness, of sy goedhartigheid. And so as we are celebrating His goedhartigheid, His kindness to us, the precious worship just continues. As we know that He is actively engaged with us and He desires to live in a precious relationship with us. And so as we, in a sense, like peeling the onion, layer for layer, we get closer and closer to the nucleus. And that nucleus is what? In an onion. It's shining. There's no impurities in that. And so even today, as we open the Word, and we, in a sense, peel the layer of another verse, another chapter, we're getting closer to that nucleus of Him being the holy and only Yodai-Vavai, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And on this journey, we will experience and we will see His kindness, where He's reaching out to us. But He's reaching out to us, asking a couple of questions to us. He's asking us, are you willing to actually partake in this process? Can this relationship actually be proper relationships, you and me? And are we prepared to take this kindness that He is bestowing upon us and share it with others? And give kindness to people. Even people that we probably don't know. And in humanly speaking, might not even deserve it. And perhaps they are the most deserving of that kindness. So, this week's Torah portion, I've labeled kindness. And you may have read it, perhaps several times, and you will say, I can't see the word kindness in there. Let's peel it. It's about kindness. Starting off with the concept of bookends. Bookends are those things that people that does have books, put on both sides, the stands that they put on both sides of the shelf to keep the books upright. Those are people, unlike me, who does not have a filing system but a piling system. I have a piling system. My wife has got a filing system. She's got her table, a desk, and I've got mine. And there's happiness in the separation. I don't mind meddle with her filing system, and she doesn't matter and meddle with my piling system. And there's calmness. But if you have actually a shelf with books in, then it's good to have the bookends to keep things in order. And so, in between the A and Z, in between the bookends, there are actually books. And in those books, there are treasures. And so, the bookends are very important because they provide protection, stability, and clarity. You can actually organize things. When we moved into a new house, my wife and my daughter had 2 days in which they just sat and said, how are we going to organize the books? Is it going to be according to author? Is it going to be alphabetically? Is it going to be thematic? It took them forever just to decide how they're going to organize the books into the bookshelf. With the bookends, obviously. If they left it to me, it would have been a nice pile, and it would have been done in an hour. It took them forever. But now it's there, and so the bookends provide the structure. But also then the identity that goes with it. And this portion has got an amazing 2 bookends. An opening and a closing. And in between, treasures. We start the reading with Deuteronomy 26 that says, "And it shall be when you come into the land which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first of all the fruits of the soil which you bring from your land, which Jehovah your Elohim is giving you, and shall put it in a basket and go to the place where Jehovah your Elohim chooses to make his name dwell there." It's an amazing bookend. Where and with what is the concept of land and inheritance linked to? Where does it come from? What's the origin of land and inheritance? The covenant with Abraham. Right off the bat, he is like a shofar sounding to the people and says, think of the covenant with Abraham. It's an inheritance because of kindness. We are now coming from the promise given to Abraham to the coming out of Egypt 430 years, 40 years later, 470 years after the giving of the covenant. That's where we are now. The people standing there had nothing that they could have contributed to this moment where they could have inherited the land. Absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, they've only contributed heartache and pain. So Moses reminds them of the covenant with Abraham, a covenant of kindness to which they can add nothing, but is tied to an inheritance. That's the one side of the bookend. And the other side of the bookend, Deuteronomy 29. These are the words of the covenant which Jehovah commanded Moshe to make with the children of Israel, upon which he expanded a little bit earlier. And Jehovah has caused you to proclaim today to be his people, a treasured possession. Treasured possession? Where does this come from? What is he reminding them of? As he has spoken to you and to guard all his commands, as to set you high above all nations, which he has made, for a praise and for a name and for an esteem, and for you to be a set-apart people to Jehovah your Elohim, as he has spoken. What does that remind us of? A treasured possession. Shugara. The covenant with Moses. So this entire Torah portion sits between the reminder of the 2 covenants. Abraham, inheritance. Moses, identity. You are my Segula. Between the inheritance and the identity sits the treasures. And what are they? Those who have read the Torah portion will know. Chapters 27 and 28. The blessings and the curses. So the blessings and the curses are wrapped up between the 2 covenants. And he's linking the blessings and the curses to the covenants. Abraham, because of the inheritance, because of kindness, you've done nothing to it. You just bestowed, endowed this inheritance. And Moses, I give you an identity of the Segula, my treasured possession. And there it is, the entire Torah portion, one slide. Inheritance and identity that wraps, embrace, a covenantal embrace, the treasure chest of the blessings and the curses. So now we understand the role of the bookends. To provide structure, to provide protection, to provide identity, because it wraps this beautiful list of blessings and curses up. It doesn't, so now when we read it, and we're going to touch upon it shortly, when we look at the blessings and the curses, they are not disconnect from the covenants. As a matter of fact, you cannot read the blessings and the curses apart from understanding the covenants. It's linked to it. Inextricably tied with the covenants as the bookends. So when we think in terms of the blessings and the curses, we actually have to ask ourselves the very simple question, where are we standing relative to His covenants? Like cold, like we've just heard about them? Like perhaps they don't exist anymore, they're old? Or do we realize that the covenants is because He cries for a relationship of kindness with us? And now the ballpark changes, the whole ball game changes. Because within a covenant there are two parties. It's not a one stream only. And He invites us to engage with these treasures, with these blessings from this covenantal perspective. But before we open this treasure chest of blessings and curses, let's just look at this identity quickly again, where it comes from. The Amsugula. And now, Exodus 19. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and you shall guard my covenant. If you obey the voice, then you will guard the covenant. Then you shall be my treasured possession, my Amsugula. And if you hear the word treasured possession, surely, you will hear the voice, my beloved one. I'm sure any people who's starting out with a relationship or who are in a relationship with somebody, you would have somewhere along the line, perhaps every day, added a soft word of my liefie, my dearest, my beloved. There will be some special word that you will use or phrase. And He's uttering that. You are my treasured possession above all the people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. So it's with this concept of Exodus 19 that Moses is closing the bookend of this week's Torah portion. So yes, they only refer to it very briefly in Deuteronomy, in the week's Torah portion, but he refers to this entire weighty matter. But there's a conundrum here. My treasured possession is a big concept, but I can sort of get it. That for all the earth is His, for all the earth is mine, is a big concept, but I sort of get it. But what's the link between the two? Because when we read it, it's as if He links the two. All the earth is mine, and you're my treasured possession. But what's the link? Why would He link these two concepts with one another? In isolation, they are big concepts, but linking them is interesting. It reminds us of Psalm 24. The earth belongs to Jehovah and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. For he has founded it upon the seas, and upon the waters he does establish it. What he's doing is to say, the world is mine. Everything is mine. But it still does not resolve this conundrum of why linking the treasured possession with all the earth is mine. It just sort of expands on the earth belongs to him. But Psalm 24 has got this very interesting extension. It says, and all that fills it, the world and those who dwell in it. For he has founded it upon the seas, and upon the waters he does establish it. Where does that come from? Genesis 1. Bear fruit and increase and fill the earth. Genesis 1:28. His Amsugula, his beloved, acknowledges that the earth is his. If you don't acknowledge that the earth is his, chances are that you're not part of his Amsugula. If you're his beloved, chances are that you will acknowledge that he has filled the earth and that the earth and everything belongs to him. His Amsugula are filling it with his right ruling by guarding the covenant. And there's the tight connection. He brings us back to the creation story. He says, you are my beloved. Can we go back to the garden and fill it with my right ruling? Fill it with my goodness. Fill it with the relationship that I've had with Adam and Eve in the garden. And it is with his treasured possession, with his Amsugula, those that obey his voice, that God is covenant, that he can have that relationship with again. It is through them that his goodness and his kindness, his mercy, his word can fill the earth. It's through them that his glory can be established. It's through them and by them, and them being the reign of priests, the kingdom of priests, that it will acknowledge that that the earth and everything belongs to him, and that he is the supreme king. So what's the duty on the shoulders of his Amsugula? We are to fill the earth in such a manner, in such a way, that everybody and everything will acknowledge that the earth belongs to him. And so he's closing this week's Torah reading with this heavy, massive thought. It says, there are these blessings and the curses, but they are not independent from you as my Amsugula, who must fill the earth with my glory, with my majesty, because all the earth belongs to me, and it's only you, who are my Amsugula, that knows it. If you're not my Amsugula, you're not going to know it. You're actually going to deny it, that the earth belongs to him. And so suddenly, when we operate as a kingdom of priests, suddenly when we are singing and worshiping him and bringing him glory, we're starting to fill the earth with that knowledge that he is King above kings, Lord above lords, and that there's nothing else but him. And we're on this journey back as it was in Genesis 1, filling the earth with his greatness. Because that was effectively what Adam and Eve was to do. Bring glory to everything, bring his glory and to sing His praises every day as His treasured possession, as His Amsugula. So, with that as an introduction, let's unwrap the treasures that's within. Chapter 26 deals with the covenant with Abraham. 29 reminded of Moses and the covenant with Moses, and that with this Amsugula, and that it's in between this inheritance and identity that sits the treasures. That sits the treasure. And it's a treasure of kindness. And so we can start to unwrap them, the treasure within. So, we often would like to go for the treasure. I don't think there's anybody here in a moment of honesty that will say, just give me the crate with the gold, please. Can we leave the A and Z, please? Can we not focus on that bit of detail? Just give me the treasures, please. I can do with $1 million at the moment. You remember the song of Lucas Marie a long time ago. I can do with that. So just give me this box. The money or the box. Give me both. But you cannot just take the box or the money outside of the covenantal relationship. Because outside of the covenantal relationship, it doesn't make sense. So, chapter 27 that deals with putting the blessings and the curses on Mount Gerizim and Ebal, I'm not going to deal with. But when the people did that, they knew how tightly linked it is to the covenants and our relationship with our Father. Only going to focus on chapter 28. But where does the blessings come from? And this whole idea of the blessings and curses come from? You will remember several weeks ago, Johan spoke about the Torah portion Re'eh. See, I am setting before you today the blessings and the curses. But when Johan dealt with that, there was no blessings and curses mentioned. It was just said, there are blessings and there are curses. But it was not revealed what the blessings and the curses are. Today that is revealed. And again, it's this like this onion. The people were given and say, I'm setting before you the blessings and the curses. Blessings if you obey, curses if you don't obey. And they actually had to take a position which they would like before hearing the detail. Because the detail only follows 2 months later. And as we have said on a previous occasion, both are gifts. The blessings unto a witness for our Father, and the curses unto teshuvah, and to turning back to Him. And to return to Him. To return to what? To the covenants. To come back into this embrace of the covenantal relationship. In order to draw us back into this embrace of the covenantal relationship, He will do whatever it requires to bring us back. And once we are in this covenantal relationship and we witness it and we experience it and we receive the blessings, what are we to do with those blessings? Be a witness. So that other people can enjoy the benefit and the knowledge of this covenantal embrace. The identity, Amsugula, and the inheritance of the land. And both then, blessings and the curses, work then unto His glory, unto His majesty, unto His greatness. And so, let's look at the blessings. The blessings follow what is called a chiastic structure. Chiastic structure is where the first thought, and the last thought deals with the same topic. And then secondly, another set of topics, and then another set of topics. And in the middle is like the cornerstone, the centerpiece, which is the centerpiece, the main objective of the blessings. And so the blessings follows this chiastic structure. Within the middle, the center objective, military success. Isn't that peculiar? And then just next to it, abundant food. And just outside of that, fertility of people and animals. And outside of that, fertility of the soil. And the bookends, economic success. Isn't that peculiar? Shouldn't that grab our attention and say, but why did our Father, in His great wisdom, thought that the blessing should be organized like this? Military success. Crazy. Let's work through this a little bit. If there's economic success, you will have the means to manage your land. And there will be blessings on the soil. If you have blessings on the soil, there will be blessings to people and animals. Then you will have food and abundance. And if you have economic success, your soil is fertile, your people and your animals are fertile, and there's a lot of food, you will have a strong army. Right? You will have a weak army if you don't have food, no people, no animals, no soil, and if you're poor. I think it was Bonaparte, I haven't thought about it before, only this moment, Bonaparte that said an army walks on its stomach, or something to that extent. That's what is standing here. An army walks on its stomach. Men has got feelings. Proven, without a doubt. Scripturally proved. I haven't thought about that either before, but now I'm going to remember that. So, but why military success? Why is that the key, the centerpiece of the blessings? Isn't that peculiar? How it hangs together, we can sort of see that economic success and that you've got the resources in order to manage the soil properly so that it's fertile and properly managed and not degraded and not destroyed, then it will help that there are people and that the animals will be fertile and that there will be blessings on them. And then the consequence thereof, there will be food, which will then support a strong army and then working back as well. One can see that sort of logic holds together. But why military success? In whom do we trust? Do we trust in the SANDF? In the security forces guarding the gated village? The IDF? In whom do we trust? It speaks to faith. Who do we trust for our protection? Do we trust our military might, our technology, our money? Why? Because it's about His name. Because that military success is to protect the land and the people from idol worshippers. Protect Jerusalem in their context, and the land and the people from idol worshippers. And if you can protect the land and the people and Jerusalem and the people from idol worshippers, what will be the consequence? His name will be worshipped. And so you've got this interplay between having faith that He is our provider. He is the source of our economic success. He is the source of our soil fertility. He is the source of our fertility of the people and the animals. He is the source of our food. He is the source of our army. And it becomes an expression of our faith because of His goodness. And what will that do? That will be a huge testimony to the world about the greatness of Yahweh Wahweh. but vice versa. It will protect people from the idol worshippers. So if this is the blessings, what would be the curses? The centerpiece, oppression. The bookends, economic disaster. It follows the identical structure, just a bit more detail. Economic disaster, agriculture disaster, defeat, becoming a byword, so losing your identity, inflammation, sickness. That rings a bell. Madness, blindness, abused and robbed. So from economic disaster, it will work to agriculture disaster. It will work through a loss in physical diseases and sicknesses. And from there on, it will go into mental and psychological diseases. And then oppression. And so oppression and military success are standing next to each other. They are the two centerpieces. Who would like to be oppressed? I'm sure there's a prayer team ready waiting for you. Nobody would like to be oppressed. But that's the curse. The centerpiece of the curse. Why would there be oppression as a centerpiece of the curses? So that the people can cry out to Yahweh for their redemption and their deliverance. So that they can return to Him. What has happened in Egypt? Cried out to the people, to our Father. I am sure that if we go around this room and many others and we ask, during which times have you cried out the most and the loudest to our Father? It would have been during those times of oppression. That you have really cried out to our Father. And that crying out to our Father, was that to you a blessing? The fruit thereof was the growth in our spiritual walk with Him. And we would have seen His goodness in and through that oppression. In and through oppression, we will have a testimony of saying, but our God was great. And He has brought us through. So these curses, with the centerpiece oppression, it sounds terrible, yes. But the key word behind it, you're my Amsugula, I love you. And I will do whatever it takes, even oppression, to bring you back into the covenantal embrace of inheritance and identity. And then we can just thank our Father for His wisdom, that He has wrapped this treasure chest, that He has given us this treasure chest, and that He's not going to abandon us. But that He will do even all of that, to go to that extent, to draw us back. So why are we oppressed? Because He is merciful and He is kind. Because of love. He will remove our conveniences. He will remove our economic, social, agricultural conveniences in order to draw us back. How often can the blessings become crutches? Blessings become so precious to us that they become the things on which we depend. Well, then they will disappear, so that we can go back to our Father. And so, yes, it is His desire to bless us economically, socially, agriculturally, in all the different facets. To do everything that is standing on the left-hand side. Now, that's on a national level. It also applies on a household level. Not on a personal level. Or then in a fellowship level. I mean, the level depends on the context in which we are. Military success can easily be translated as the protection of a fellowship. Keeping holy, keeping set apart of a fellowship. He will do whatever to keep a fellowship and His name set apart to His glory, or a household, or then a nation. But likewise then, if something goes wrong, He will intervene and He will chastise. And we can look at the chastisement in a bad way, or as a way of an expression of His love, by Him removing those conveniences, calling us back into this relationship with Him, the embrace between the covenants and among the covenants. And the covenant cannot exist without various parties being engaged in the process. And now we see why those covenants are not one-directional from the Father to us. But it involves us, because it involves our choices, as is His Amsugula. And once we have answered it as His Amsugula, and we said, we will obey and guard His covenants, and we will respect that, we will live according to His name, what's going to happen? The military success part. The news thereof will spread, and it will fill the earth. Which is what Psalm 24 is saying. You are my precious people, fill the earth with His glory. You and I might sit here and say, but we're quite small, how can we do it? It's not a burden. It's Him doing it through His Ruach, through His Spirit, all over the world. The Haftarah is Isaiah 60. Now, the Haftarah is a parallel portion from the prophets that deals with this week's Torah portion. And I'm going to read an extended section out of Isaiah 60. And when I'm reading it, please keep this framework in mind, the blessings and the curses, because it will be like a refrain right through Isaiah 60. These ideas, these concepts are going to jump out. But Isaiah is going to put it in a much better way than what I can ever try to do it. And that's why I'm going to read from Isaiah 60. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the esteem of Jehovah has risen upon you. What's the reason or the purpose of the blessings and the curses? Esteem of Jehovah has risen. For look, darkness covers the earth, oppression, and thick darkness the people. But Jehovah arises over you, His Amsugula, and His esteem is seen upon you, His Amsugula. And the Gentiles shall come to you, because that is filling the earth. His glory is filling the earth. So the Gentiles will come unto you because of the testimony, and sovereigns to the brightness of your rising. A stream of camels cover your land, and dromedaries of Midian and Ephah, and all those from Sheba come, bearing gold and increase, and proclaiming the praises of Jehovah. So, what's going to happen? Economic success, recognition. People are going to bring gifts because of the glory of the Father. All the flocks of Kedar are gathered to you. The rams of Meribah serve you. They come upon for acceptance on my altar. What a testimony. What a purpose. And I embellish my esteemed house, because the coastlands wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your sons from afar, their silver and their gold with them, to the name of Jehovah your Elohim, and to the set apart one of Israel, because He has adorned you, His Amsugula. And the sons of foreigners shall build your walls, and their sovereigns serve you, because of Yodai Wafai. And so, there's this beautiful set of treasures, of gifts, of blessings being revealed. But they're in this tight relationship with the Father, with the covenants. For in my wrath I have smitten you, but in my delight I shall have compassion on you. The curses, the oppression. And your gates shall be opened continually, and are not shut day or night, because you will be able to take your kindness, you will be able to take your testimony, and you will be able to share that with everybody. And because you will be strong, because your trust will be in the Father, your gates will be open. You don't have to fear. It's only people who fear whose gates are closed. To bring you the wealth of the Gentiles and their sovereigns in procession. So now we understand that concept of bringing you the wealth of Gentiles, which I think has been used a lot as well, but the context thereof is very important. It's not just sort of bring me the wealth of the nations and then I will be rich because it's nice to be rich. It's in this context of the covenant and of the name of our Father. Instead of you being forsaken and hated, in other words, oppressed, so that no one passes through you, I shall make you an everlasting excellence, a joy of many generations. So instead of the curses with the oppression, and when you're oppressed, I'm sure many of you would have experienced it. Nobody visits you, because it's not nice to be when the curtains are drawn and it's dark and gloomy and quite oppressed. You're not good company, so people don't come to you. Well, Father says, instead of you being forsaken and hated, so that no one passes through you, I shall make you an everlasting excellence. Isn't that an amazing phrase? An everlasting excellence. I would like to be an everlasting excellence. I'm sure that's like kind of good stuff. A joy of many generations. And you shall dry the milk of the Gentiles, and shall milk the breast of sovereigns. And you shall know that I, Jehovah, your Savior and your Redeemer, am the Elohim of Yaakov. And so now military success and oppression are the two centerpieces of the blessings and the curses, because it centers around Him and our relationship with Him. Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, neither wasting nor ruin within your borders, and you shall call your walls deliverance and your gates praise. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And so, as I've said earlier, that when we read from the scriptures, when we read His word, it's a continuation of worship. And as we read these words, we're actually worship. Because we're worshiping His name. Because even in this fellowship, the gates shall be called, the walls shall be called deliverance, and the gates praise unto His glory. And your people, and all them righteous, shall inherit the earth forever, a branch of my planting, a work of my hands to be adorned. Identity, your people, all of them righteous, the Am Sugala, inherit the earth forever, the inheritance. And you have Psalm 24, Genesis 1, Deuteronomy 26 to 29 coming together. The blessings and the curses with these covenants. And why we are called to live a covenantal life. There's a saying, the devil is in the detail. I'd like to change that slightly. Say the blessing is in the detail. So, if you're asleep, enjoy it. if you're awake, we're going to repeat much of what we have said, but look at it with a fine scale, with a tooth comb, and see what we can unpack here. Because the blessing is truly in the detail. Genesis 1-28 says, "And Elohim created great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters steamed according to their kind, and Elohim blessed them." That's the first time blessing occurs in Scripture. It's when He made the fish. It's like, what? And all the fishermen, it's the first thing that's blessed, are fish. It's a fishy story coming. Why would fish be the recipient of the first blessing? Bear fruit and increase and fill the waters in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth. And that was the 5th day. It is fascinating. The fish are the first fruit of something within a fish, made with flesh. And it got the first fruit blessing. Nefesh, flesh, fish. It's easy to remember. Nefesh, flesh, fish. It's the first thing made with flesh. It got the first fruit blessing, the first thing that got a blessing. And because of that, everything made with flesh are blessed. So everything else with flesh on are blessed, because fish, which was created first with the flesh, was blessed. And what did not suffer under the curse and with Noah? Fish did not suffer. Fish enjoyed the ride. Fish did not go into Noah's ark. Fish relished the situation. So the first fruit of blessing did not suffer with Noah's flood. Think about that. So Father protected His first fruit blessing. And by that, He protected His blessing on all flesh, because the flesh received the first fruit blessing there. So how important is first fruits? And to set apart first fruits. And what does it mean, first fruits? Because if you put your first fruit in the basket, everything then is blessed. And Father has done the same. He has blessed the first fruit of that with flesh, fish. And He protected it. Incredible. And Elohim made the beast of the earth, the eretz, according to its kind, livestock according to its kind, and all that creep on the earth. And that's Adamah. 2 different words, Hebrew words, even though the English is the same. Beast of the eretz, the earth, creep on the Adamah, is actually better translated as soil. According to its kind. And Jehovah said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule. What was the first thing over which they must rule? Fish of the sea. Why? That was the first thing made with flesh. Rule over that which has the first fruit blessing. So we have to rule over that with the first fruit blessing. What a responsibility. So now He's asking us, humans, in this relationship of Amsugula, you my treasured possession, to come and rule over that which has the first fruit blessing. And given that it's a fish, it's all the flesh. Not just the fish, all the flesh. And Elohim blessed. That's the second time the word bless occurs. Them. That's mankind. Adam and Eve. And Elohim said to them, bear fruit, increase and fill the earth, eretz, and subdue it and rule over the fish. The repeat of the command. How serious is it if He repeats it? Basically 2 verses later. And He's linking the rule with the blessing. how we rule has a bearing on our blessing and on the filling of the earth. How we rule. If we obey His voice and His word and His commandments and the Torah, and we rule according to that, then there will be consequences. If we do not rule according to that, there will be consequences. And He's asking us to be participants in this process by ruling over that which He has made and which carries the first fruit blessing. I think we underestimate how serious a job we have as humans and how eager Father is to be in this covenantal relationship with us, and how eager He is that we manage the world with His goodness. Because if we do it according to His principles, then His goodness will fill the earth. The Psalm 24. That was Genesis 1. Deuteronomy 26, our Torah portion. And it shall be when you come into the land, the Eretz, which Yehovah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance. We spoke about that, the covenant with Abraham. And you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first fruit of the fruits of the Adamah. Come and be partners with me in this process. So when we take the first fruit, it's not something like, okay, now you have to do your first fruit and it's like a burden. It's you're participating in this process of creating His glory. Manifesting His glory, which you bring from your land, the Eretz, which Yehovah your Elohim is giving you, and shall put it in a basket and shall go to the place where Yehovah your Elohim chooses to make His name dwell there. The earth belongs to our Father and all that fills it, the land, the world and those who dwell in it, for He has founded it upon the seas and upon the waters. He does establish it. And in that water there are fish. And then, Genesis 2:7. And our Father formed man from the dust, from the Adamah, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. We are from the soil. He made us from that. And so, the land, the Eretz, they who stood there listening to Moses, are entering because of His kindness, belongs to the Father. You, we, who are participants in His glorious process of bringing glory to His name and ruling and managing His earth, are made of its soil. So let's rule and govern it according to His glory. And that's what Moses is trying to articulate here in Deuteronomy 26. As the first fruit blessing went on to the fish, and He blessed the fish and everything else that made of the fish, out of flesh, from there on forward. He says, are you willing to follow in the same pattern? That's the pattern. The first fruit that I made was blessed, and it was protected from the flood. Are you willing to bring and follow in the same pattern and bring that, the first fruits, in acknowledgement that everything belongs to me and you're made from it anyhow? We continue, and you shall answer and say before Yehovah your Elohim, my father was a perishing Aramean, and he went down to Mitzrayim and sojourned there with few men, and there he became a nation, great, mighty, and numerous. But the Egyptians did not but evil to us, afflicted us, and imposed hard labor on us. Then we cried out to our father, and Yehovah heard our voice and saw our affliction and our trial and our oppression. He saw that curse and the burden of the curse resting on us, which is the centerpiece of the curses. And He brought us out of Egypt with a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, with great fear, with signs and wonders. And there's a lot of testimonies around what has happened during the 40 years and how they've defeated Og of Bashan and many other nations far greater and bigger than they are. The centerpiece of the blessings. And He brought us to this place and has given us this land, this Eretz, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now I have brought the first fruit of the land, the Adamah, from which I came, which you have given me. And it ties the situation together. And how we then can participate in this with our Father, in how we live our lives to His glory. And we can follow the pattern in terms of how He has made the world. And by following the pattern, His glory will extend and fill the earth. Returning the first fruit from the Adamah, from which all the flesh come, to the rightful owner of the Eretz, the land, thereby acknowledging Him as the owner, and we are His Am Segulah, His treasured possession. And it's only His Am Segulah, His treasured possession, that will do that. Only His Am Segulah. And that's why He is crying out to His Am Segulah, His treasured possession, His beloved, to engage in this relationship and in this process with Him and return the blessings. But the question is, do we have faith? Are we willing to do that? But that's a centerpiece. That's what the blessings are about. Do we have faith? Do we trust Him? A few weeks ago, I've had this slide in terms of that Moses is busy with unpacking the 10 great words. And chapter 26 is the last of this unpacking of the great 10 words. It just so happens that he's dealing with the 8th word, the sanctification of property. Do not steal. Isn't that weird? Shouldn't he conclude with like the 10th word? Why is he concluding with the 8th word? Do not steal. The sanctity of property. But this time it's not the property of human beings. It's about His property. And the sanctification of His property. And who's the rightful owner of His property? So the 8th word, do not steal, includes do not steal from the Father. Which is what Micah 3 writes about in great detail. But it's also about do not neglect our inheritance. Because our inheritance, remember the 2 covenants. Abraham with the inheritance, Moses with the identity. We can be so focused on the identity that we forget to manage the inheritance properly. We have to manage the inheritance, the land, property, by ruling justly, according to the ways that He has asked us to rule. By stealing from the Father, we are robbing ourselves and others from the blessings. And we as His people, and everything belongs to Him. So, by extending kindness to Him as He is extending kindness to us, we can also take the concept of kindness and let it fill the earth. And I find it therefore quite amazing that chapter 26, the covenant with Abraham, is so tightly linked with then, if you come into the land, then bring the tithes, bring the first fruits. Why? Because remember, whose land is it anyhow? And where do you come from? And then let's us party from there on further. Why am I saying that? In a month's time we are celebrating Sukkot. So this is leading up to Sukkot. And what's happening at Sukkot? The Am Segulah comes together in celebration. And if you don't know what the celebration is about, ask Yaku. And so he is leading the way into that celebration. And why we have to celebrate his appointments. Because it is through this celebration of His goodness that His name will be made great. So, summary. Blessings and curses are gifts from our Father. The blessings center around military success, as odd as it might sound. But it's in order to protect the land, to protect the covenant, to protect the people, and to a witness. The curses, and this for success, He provides economically, agriculture, socially, but then the curses surrounds around oppression, so that the people will be able to cry out. And these gifts are linked to the covenants. How attached are we to the covenants? How foreign are the covenants to us? How close are the covenants to us? The merciful Father seeks our active engagement in this restoration process of the covenants of the blessings, back to the garden, a process that will fill the earth with His glory. And as we are leading up to Sukkot, as a remembrance, we're actually in this process of taking, together with millions of other people around the world, wherever they are, to fill the earth with His glory. That's happening. Even today, as people are surrounded in many, many places around the world, celebrating His goodness, this is what is happening. It's filling the earth with His glory. The land belongs to our Father, and we are made of its soil, and we should rule it according to it, to those patterns, to His glory. Tithes, first fruits are therefore deeply spiritual, because it's acknowledging our identity and our inheritance. The eighth word has special covenantal connection. It's one of those ones when I was a child, when somebody would read it from the pulpit, when he gets to that one, you know, well, because we're almost finished. And they're getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But we don't realize how important it is. So important that Moses decided, I'm sure under the leading of our Father, to conclude the unpacking of the 10 words with this one. So that it can put an emphasis, a seal on the earth belongs to me, the covenants belongs to me, and you belong to me. And then in the month of harvest, we celebrate those appointments. But the question is, why do we celebrate it? Why? Is it just because we follow rules? Because it's a tradition? Because of friendship? Culture? Or is it an expression of our faith and our trust in Him as the only provider? And we are His Amsegula. He's the rock on which we build. And because of that, we can proceed. Doesn't matter where we are and what our circumstances may or may not be. Friendship is nice. That's not the objective. So, celebrating His appointments, acknowledging that we are His Amsegula, and participating in this process as He has described to us and laid out for us, are therefore acts of worship. By getting in a car and do something is an act of worship. It's not separate from it. I'm going to conclude with a testimony of somebody who wrote it many, many, many years ago, which, to my mind, articulates this principle that we've just discussed in the most beautiful manner. It is in the book of Tobit. Tobit 1 we read, I, Tobit, walked in the ways of truth and righteousness all the days of my life, and I did many alms deeds to my kindred and my nations who went with me into the land of the Assyrians to Nineveh. He was from the tribe of Naphtali. They got taken away, and he got stuck in Nineveh. That is after Jonah, but before the destruction of Nineveh, for obvious reasons. When I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, while I was yet young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father, fell away from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. But all the tribes should sacrifice there, Jerusalem, and the temple of the habitation of the Most High was hallowed and built therein for all ages. All the tribes which fell away together sacrificed to the heifer Baal, and so did the house of Naphtali, my father. So now the idol worshippers. And so what happens? Now the city is no longer protected. And now there's no longer military success. Now the walls are broken down. Now they're taken away. I alone went often to Jerusalem at the feasts, as it has been ordained to all Israel by an everlasting decree, having the first fruits and the tenths of my increase. And that which was first shorn, I gave them at the altar to the priests, the sons of Aaron. I gave a 10th part of all my increase to the sons of Levi, who ministered at Jerusalem. A second 10th part I sold away, basically I stored it away, and went and spent it each year at Jerusalem. So in other words, to pay for his own travel and accommodation there. A third 10th I gave to them to whom it was appropriate, as Deborah, my father's mother, had commanded me, because I was left an orphan by my father. And then he details a lot of things that he did as a righteous man. But because of his righteousness, in this wicked city, he was persecuted. And because of his persecution, he lost everything. And all my goods were forcibly taken away, and there was nothing left to me save my wife Anna and my son Tobias. You ask, what is going on? But then there's this restoration story of how his household was restored. Remarkable story that I'm not going to detail, of restoration. And in the process, Tobit became blind as well. But part of the restoration was him recovering his eyesight. What I want to focus at is the last chapter, the final chapter, where he then wrote a prayer. And it's with this prayer that I would like to close this service as well today. And Tobit wrote a prayer of rejoicing and said, Blessed is God who lives forever. Blessed is his kingdom. For he scourges and shows mercy. He leads down to the grave and brings up again. There is no one who will escape his hand. Give thanks to him before the Gentiles, all you children of Israel, for he has scattered us among them. Declare his greatness there. Extol him before all the living, because he is our Lord, and God is our Father forever. He will scourge us for our iniquities, and will again show mercy, and will gather us out of all the nations among whom you are all scattered. If you turn to him with your whole heart and with your whole soul to do truth before him, then he will turn to you and won't hide his face from you. See what he will do with you. Give him thanks with your whole mouth. Bless the Lord of righteousness. Exalt the everlasting King. I give thanks in the land of my captivity, and show his strength and majesty to a nation of sinners. Turn, you sinners, and do righteousness before him. Who can tell if he will accept you and have mercy on you? I exalt my God. My soul exalts the King of heaven, and rejoice in his greatness. Let all men speak, and let them give thanks in Jerusalem. O Jerusalem, the holy city, he will scourge you for the works of your sons, and you will again have mercy on the sons of the righteous. Give thanks to the Lord with goodness, and bless the everlasting King, that his tabernacle may be built in you again with joy, and that He may make glad in you those who are captives, and love in you forever those who are miserable. Many nations will come from afar to the name of the Lord God with gifts in their hands, even gifts to the King of heaven. Generations of generations will praise you and sing songs of rejoicing. But all who hate you are cursed. Our Father, with Tobit we would like to sing your praises today. And we would like to exalt your name and bring glory to you. Thank you that you have blessed us richly. May we have your perspective on it. It's about this covenantal embrace to bring glory unto you and to a witness. And thank you for the hardships. And may you, through your grace and mercy, teach us, guide us, and draw us closer unto you. Because in the end of the day, we, your people, we, your Amsugula, would like to sing your praises together as a nation, as a people. And if, by your kindness, by your will, together with many other people, in Jerusalem one day. And as we then also prepare for your appointments, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, help us, guide us to see your covenantal relationship with us in a new and fresh manner and grow in our relationship with you. And through that, extend your kindness to others, so that your kindness can fill the earth and to your glory. Amen.